Hey everyone, welcome to Break the Churn Loop, Acquire, Lose, Repeat. I'm Jason Seba, CMO at OneSignal. Today we're tackling something that every growth, lifecycle, and CRM team I talk to is dealing with. It's the cycle of paying to acquire users only to lose them in a few weeks. Here's the number that should make all of us uncomfortable. Industry data consistently shows that up to 92% of mobile app users churn within 30 days. And that's before most teams even recover their acquisition costs. So teams respond the only way they know: send more campaigns, push harder, automate more, and the cycle keeps repeating. So today we're going to break that down with two people who are doing the actual work in two very different parts of the customer engagement world, Gavin from Ringier and Kristen from Crocs. And so we will get going with them in just a second. I see that someone's seeing echo in the chat, so let me know if that keeps going, but hopefully we'll be all good there. All right, so what we're going to cover today is the retention playbook for 2026, the retention recipes that actually work, and we'll share a new guide that's coming out just today, and then also the retention math that your growth team is not doing. So we're also going to cover some insights right now from the State of Customer Engagement 2026 report that we put out very recently. And so hopefully some of those insights will be relevant to you in retention. So let's talk about how AI is changing how you engage. Gartner is actually projecting a 25% decline in mobile app usage by 2027. And that's not a gradual shift, that's a real cliff. Users are increasingly relying on AI assistants to complete tasks that used to require you opening up your app. It's ordering food, checking balances, managing subscriptions. If an AI agent can handle the task, many users won't even bother opening up your app at all. So the question becomes, what role does your app play when AI can do the job instead? And it gets even more specific than app usage declining. The messages that you're sending, your push notifications, your emails, they're being filtered before your users ever see them. So iOS is already summarizing notifications, grouping them by priority. AI is deciding which messages surface and which ones get buried. Your carefully crafted push notification might already just be reduced down to a one-line summary. And this is happening today, not just in some future product roadmap. Nearly half the teams we surveyed in our report, 48%, said they're already concerned about it, and 17% are already saying it's measurably affecting their deliverability. So the net result is that attention is more scarce than ever. That premise that customer engagement was built on, the idea that if you send a message and people will see it, that premise is breaking down. Attention is no longer something you get by default. You have to earn it every single time. And if you're not earning it, you're training the AI systems to deprioritize you further, and it compounds. So what actually works in this environment? One of the most powerful patterns that we see in the data is habit formation. So when users build a daily routine around your product, whether that's a morning check-in, a daily game, a workout streak, you become part of their day rather than an interruption to it. And that's the difference. Habitual users don't need to be convinced to open your app. They do it reflexively. And when AI is filtering everything, that habitual behavior cuts through. So let's look at what makes habits stick. Mechanics like streaks, progress tracking, daily rewards, these create that psychological pull that keep users coming back. The user isn't just responding to a message, they're protecting a streak, they're maintaining momentum, they're continuing a pattern they're invested in. This is particularly powerful in gaming, fitness, education, fintech, any product where you can give users a reason to show up consistently. The catch is, though, is that these habits require knowing what each user cares about and reaching them at that right moment. You can't create a one-size-fits-all habit loop. A casual player and a competitive player respond completely differently to triggers. A new user needs an onboarding rhythm, very different than someone who's been with you for months. That's where behavioral targeting at scale becomes essential. You need the data infrastructure to understand individual behavior and the messaging platform to act on it in real time. For me, I have some very specific interests. For me, I'm really into cassette tapes, and specifically mixtapes on boomboxes, some that I fixed up. And this example is one of my favorite mixtapes, DJ Coco, a Japanese hip hop DJ who just released another new mixtape for Record Store Day. And when they released just a few copies of his mixtape on cassette, I missed it the first time around, but got targeted because of my intent before, and I got it right when it came back in stock. And so creating those kind of like moments of bliss or excitement with personalization still cut through the noise. And those meaningful relationships compound over time. So every positive interaction, every relevant message, every well-timed nudge builds trust with both the user and the AI systems that are filtering notifications. Think of it almost like a credit score. If you've consistently delivered valuable messages, the AI is more likely to service your next one. And if you've been sending noise, each new message fights an uphill battle. The teams that invest early in building genuine user relationships are creating a durable competitive advantage. So let's get into the report findings. I mentioned that data from Gartner predicted a 25% drop in 2027, largely driven by AI filtering. Like I said, 48% of teams are already worried about message visibility, and 17% are already having their deliverability impacted. So what's changed structurally? It used to be straightforward. You send a message, the user sees it, and now there's this AI layer that's deciding what gets through. And that system is learning from user behavior, what they open, what they ignore, what they dismiss. And over time, your messages build a track record. If your user consistently engages with your notifications, the AI learns to keep showing them. If users ignore them, the AI filters them out. Every message you send matters more than it used to because every interaction is training the system. You're either building trust with it or you're slowly teaching it to deprioritize you. The data across our full benchmarking confirms what people are experiencing. So when you compare event-triggered messaging to standard or untargeted sends, the gap is dramatic. On mobile push, triggered messages deliver a 4.38 click-through rate versus just 0.48 for untargeted sends. That's roughly 9x the performance. It's showing that if you're actually triggering messages based on behavior, they're so much more powerful. And I think everyone knows this in practice. We're seeing the same pattern on email and push. 88% of teams using event-based messaging are reporting higher engagement, with many seeing double-digit gains. And AI is raising the bar, right? The top answer of what actually earns attention as AI filtering increases is understanding user behavior. It's not more channels, it's not more volume, it's behavior. And it makes sense. If the system's deciding what gets shown is optimizing for relevance, then the teams that understand their users best are the ones that win. It's less about reaching more people and more about showing up at the right moment for the right people. This might be the most important finding in our report. And so 63% of teams using cross-channel journeys say they're getting better results while sending fewer messages. 78% are reporting higher revenue from cross-channel orchestration. So read that again. Fewer messages, better results. So it's not really a trade-off. It's when messaging is sequenced well and when it adapts, when it stops at the right time, it performs better. Orchestration lets you be thoughtful about how messages connect over time, not just individually. Instead of repeating the same message, you're building a progression, you're building a relationship. Let's just talk quickly about a few recipes for attention, and this is from our new guide that's coming out today. And so there'll be a link to it, so get your phones ready. There's a QR code coming up in a few slides, and you can download it directly without any forms. So there's a few specific recipes, like weekly value cadence journeys. So you can focus on building a personalized content rhythm that becomes part of their day. And so if your readers are engaging deeply when they visit, but they're not coming back consistently, maybe they're binging on a Monday, they disappear for 2 weeks and then resurface when a headline catches their eye, try this. News and media apps live and die by daily active usage, but most rely on breaking news to deliver it. When there's no major story, traffic dips because users don't have a routine to open the app. So focus on building a personalized content rhythm that becomes part of their day, the way a morning podcast or a newsletter does. Here's another one. This is around preserving channels. And so if your subscriber list is growing, but your reachable audience isn't keeping pace, push opt-outs climb after every flash sale, email unsubscribes tick up each month, or you're adding context to the top and losing permission from the bottom. Try this. Email messaging volume is the highest of any vertical, which means fatigue heats faster. And so customers don't unsubscribe because they dislike your brand. They unsubscribe because the value of staying subscribed no longer outweighs the cost. So give them more control over what they receive. So users who actively choose their preferences are dramatically more likely to stay opted in and more likely to have their messages surfaced by AI-powered inbox filters. And this is the last one, a feature expansion journey. If you have a core group of users who log in regularly, check their balance, maybe pay a bill or transfer funds, but it's the same 3 things, every time, they're retrained by numbers, but their behavior is essentially flatlined. So try this. Power users plateau when your product becomes invisible infrastructure. Users treat the app like a utility, open, check balances, and then close. The features that drive deeper engagement and higher LTV go undiscovered because nothing in the user's current flow surfaces them. So the real risk here is if a competitor offers a better rate or a cleaner UI for the same basic functions. There's nothing anchoring the user to your platform. So the fix here is to surface unused features in the context of behavior they're already doing. So triggering, obviously, like triggering specific upsell, specific expansion of features. So the discovery feels relevant to them versus random or non-targeted. Some key takeaways, like we talked about, AI is reshaping visibility. So AI filtering is already impacting deliverability. Behavioral triggers really can help restore performance. And then also less volume can drive a stronger result, especially when you're sending more targeted, more orchestrated messages. I want to just touch really quickly. I think a lot of people here already know OneSignal, but to give you a scale of what we're doing, 1 in 4 app publishers are choosing OneSignal already. We're powering 1.5 billion monthly active users. 200,000 apps are powered by OneSignal, and you can see the logos of many of the companies that we're working with, and we're excited to have Crocs here with us today. All right, like I mentioned, get your phones out. This is a new guide that is dropping today about recipes for attention. And so there's some really specific tips in here and takeaways. And so hopefully with Gavin and Kristen, you're going to learn a lot from their insights, but also here's some things that you can just take away and walk away with. All right, so I'm excited to have our panelists here. Gavin Forsyth is the Associate Market Director at Ringier, one of Europe's largest media groups. It's home to Blick and a whole portfolio of other Swiss titles. Gavin, would you come off and introduce yourself, and then Kristen can go right after you.
Thank you so much. Yeah, as you said, I'm Gavin Forsyth, Associate Marketing Director at Ringier. There I lead the marketing tech and strategy for the group. My team and I effectively evangelize the use of MarTech, automation, AI across our whole portfolio of companies in the media and classified space.
We're excited to have you here. Thanks for joining us today. And Kristen Shearer is the Global Digital Campaigns Director at Crocs, where she leads digital campaigns across the US, Canada, EMEA, and APAC. And Kristen, I'd love for you to introduce yourself as well.
Yeah, great to be here. So Global Digital Campaigns Director, fancy way of saying I lead the CRM team on the go-to-market side for Crocs globally. Prior to that, I led CRM for North America for 4 years, but we recently restructured and globalized our marketing efforts into one hub. So excited to be here today.
Absolutely. So let's kick it off with an icebreaker question. What's one retention tactic that you each think is overrated? Feel free to jump in either of you.
I could go first. So something we're seeing on our side right now is really branded, polished creative is overrated. We're seeing a lot more success right now with what we're referring to as lo-fi creative. So just a lot more informal copy, UGC imagery. Basically, we're just trying to do less right now, and it seems to be really working across both retention and acquisition.
Yeah.
Awesome. Gavin, you want to take it?
Yeah. I'm probably going to go against the grain here. I actually don't believe any tactic is necessarily overrated. I think what might work for a massive SaaS giant might not work for a small B2C company and vice versa. So really, I think even if it's a cheesy cringe tactic, if the numbers say it works, it's worthwhile keeping it in the toolbox.
Yeah, we definitely see all types of tactics here as well. And so I think that idea of if it works, it stays, it does definitely make sense. So let's kick it off. So first question, we're going to talk about the retention playbook for 2026 and beyond. And so Gavin, this one's for you. Customer attention is getting harder to earn across every channel. What's changed most in the past year or two, and how your team thinks about engagement and retention in 2026?
The thing that's changed for us is ultimately the maturation of the push channels. What I mean by this, from the email side of things, we've always kind of understood the importance of database hygiene, the concept of blacklists and spamming. But in the push environment, although you would still be punished by the user, there were no real technical safeguards stopping you from being a spammer. So although we did our best, you still have brands in the group maybe pushing the boundaries a bit far, and there's no consequences for that. This has changed dramatically in the last few months, but certainly since last year, where especially the likes of Google more and more treat push the same way they treat email. There's now a concept of spam and push. There are active penalties where Google will throttle you or shadow ban you if you misbehave. So I think for us, this has been the biggest change in the last 18 to 24 months, and really now focusing down on not just email hygiene, but push list hygiene as well.
Yeah, that absolutely makes sense. And that ties in great to the next question. And maybe Kristen, you can take this one first. It's, have either of you intentionally sent less in 2026? And if so, what got cut first?
Yeah, so we are definitely sending less in 2026. We've noticed for a few years a decline in our email engagement metrics. So email is definitely something we're focused on repairing right now. I think it started with the inbox filtering and the AI summaries, and I think there's also just a massive consumer behavior shift right now where it's a lot easier to convert on your phone. You have your phone with you at all times, so SMS and push are starting to see the demand driven more there. So we are sending fewer emails right now. We're really just layering a lot of suppressions onto our major email sends. We've always had a very segmented approach, but now we're really making sure that people aren't getting, Journeys abandonment series on the same day that they're getting product launch emails. And it seems pretty basic, but it's definitely something that has improved our KPIs. And then I'd say the other thing we're sending less of right now is we're seeing a lot of success with SMS in some countries and less so in others. So we have a globally driven calendar, but we're really taking a regionally specific look at where certain channels are thriving. And so taking a step back in certain countries with SMS that just aren't seeing the return.
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense. Gavin, what about you?
So I think for us, it's really not just a 2026 thing. We've been trying to send less for years now. Really started on email, and as I alluded to in my previous point, more and more we're doing the same thing now in push. One tactic that I would like to share is not cutting a user immediately. We kind of have this concept of opting someone down. So in the media or marketplaces space, someone might sign up for some kind of alert or some kind of news alert as well at a certain frequency. And what you want to do is kind of opt them down to lower frequencies, give them some chance to engage again, opt them down again until eventually they kind of opt themselves all the way out of getting anything. I think that's been quite a helpful tactic for us in this. So, in terms of who goes first, at first we kind of give you a bunch of chances, but eventually, I think after a certain amount of time, then it's time to let that user go for the sake of your domain reputation and your list hygiene.
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense. So maybe as a follow-up to that at Ring, you're dealing with news and media, a space where frequency and recency are really core to the product. What's that line in 2026 between engaged reader and about to mute us? And what's that signal that tells you when you've crossed it? So with that step down, that probably is something that you're looking at very closely.
Yeah, that's a really interesting one. So for us, there is no line in the sand that we can apply to our whole group. We're kind of operating across most of Europe and Africa, and it's really different per vertical, per brand. So I think, when you think about a sports brand where there's a big football game going on, a high frequency of push is kind of acceptable at that point in time, right? As opposed to maybe a property brand, trying to send that many pushes at the same time as a sports match might really annoy the user. So I think it really kind of depends on the brand, on the market. And even within the same verticals, we've seen it's really important to manage the expectations up front. So we have similar brands across different countries, but one brand upfront made it very clear, we're going to send you a lot of push. And users accepted that and actually did really well. So I think that's also an important point to manage expectations upfront.
Yeah.
Um, yeah.
I think that concept of setting expectations is really helpful, right? So, because that I think that in all of life is very, very valuable. Makes sense.
Yeah. So what I would recommend to brands dipping their toe in here or asking that question uh, is really starting slow. Start with the frequency that you know is going to be safe, that you know is your audience is going to be okay with, uh, and then slowly increase it over time. What you got to watch out for is that slow list erosion. This is something that's if you annoy users now, you're probably only going to pay the price 3 to 6 months from now. So what you want to do is, as I say, start slow, increase slowly, watch your list metrics, and kind of find that sweet spot that's going to maximize clicks, leads, sales, whatever you're after, while still maintaining a healthy database growth.
Yeah, makes sense. All right, Kristen, Crocs is doing highly personalized lifecycle marketing across many channels. Can you share a campaign where deeper product or behavioral personalization has really improved engagement or conversion?
Yeah, so on the push notification side, we've really tried to mirror our email SMS strategy and build out every single life cycle journey that we have in those channels in push notifications as well. So we have the classic welcome series, abandoned cart, abandoned browse. And they're all doing well, but I would say one that really stands out for us is we have a saved for later journey. So if you think about how you shop on an app, I don't know about you guys, but I'm like in waiting rooms, I'm maybe at a stoplight. Like I'm not necessarily I'm using it kind of as a catalog, but I'm not necessarily always in the right position to check out. So we added the save for later feature to our app a couple years ago, and we noticed huge adoption with it. People are really cataloging their interest in their items, and so we have a campaign that goes out a day later asking them if they're still interested in the item and reminding them of the item that they saved, and then one follow-up touch point after that. And so our goal with this campaign is really just to find our consumers in the right place at the right time when they are ready to check out. And we've seen an 11% conversion rate with that journey. So really strong results from that. And then I would say outside of push notifications, just on the campaign side, one tactic that we do is we used a recommendation, product feed generated recommendations in every email, and those blocks have a 40 times higher click rate than just our regular content blocks.
Oh, that's all. Those are amazing results. Very cool.
Yeah.
So walk us through. So this can be maybe Gavin, you can start here. Walk us through a specific retention journey or life cycle campaign that actually really worked for your team. What was the trigger? What was the channel mix and branching logic? And what specifically made it outperform your typical campaigns?
So in terms of journey and lifecycle management, I think it's always good to kick it off with the classics. You're going to have multiple touch points with the user in that journey. Kick it off with the classics, send them an email, you're missing out, whatever the tactics might be that work for your brand in that case. But the real standout tactic is what I might call a circuit breaker, is pulling in another channel into that flow. So I think it really kind of helps to pull the user into a space where they're not used to dealing with you. Maybe they can, it's a new space for them to see your brand in a new light, and really kind of snap them out of that disengagement cycle. And that's something that's really worked well for us.
That's awesome. All right, Kristen, how about you?
Yeah, a retention journey that's worked well for us is a replenishment journey. So our shoes are very seasonal. So for adults, like you might be buying sandals in the summer, but we have winter shoes as well. We have fuzz lined products, we have boots. So 6 months after that first purchase, we send a reminder to folks that purchased, asking them to consider the styles that are more seasonally relevant. And our idea there is that they've had 6 months to fall in love with their shoes and fall in love with the Crocs comfort, and just reminding them of the depth of our product catalog is really important. But we've also seen a lot of success with this journey for kids. So kids grow really fast, they get really dirty. So similar timeline, every 6 months, we send an email that asks them, is it time to size up? Is it time to get those shoes nice and fresh. And that journey has done really well for us. We do offer a 25% off coupon in that journey, and we are working to be less promotional, but we have a lot of competition just with dupes out there, but also with other retailers selling Crocs, and we want to remind them that Crocs.com is the best place to come. And so yeah, we do offer some discounts because we want to treat our customers well.
Yeah, that makes sense. Awesome. This one's for Gavin. We often talk about kind of inactive users as a problem to solve, but quiet users can still be really valuable. And how do you distinguish between users who are genuinely kind of the risk of churn, or those who are just in kind of a low intent phase?
This is an interesting one, and is actually quite pertinent for our marketplace brands. So if you think of
Hmm.
a job seeker on a jobs portal, or someone looking to rent or buy a house or apartment, uh, once that journey is complete and they have their job or they have their house, it's not just that the engagement lowers, it disappears. So in this kind of context, it's extremely important to identify what we might term as active or passive seekers. So and then this will inform a content strategy, right? So for an active seeker, of course, you're sending them properties or jobs, that kind of thing, segmented and personalized, of course. But for passive seekers, they don't need that stuff anymore. So there you switch to more lifestyle content. So for a job seeker who just got a job, you maybe want to send content about growing in the workplace, or dealing with workplace culture. For a property seeker, it can pivot to content about home decor or new tax laws in the property market, that kind of thing. So when they do, in 3 to 5 years, need a new job, need a new house or apartment to rent, now you're already front of mind. You don't have to re-engage them again, and they'll come back to you hopefully then and reactivate in that sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. Kristen, you touched on this a little bit already too, but replenishment journeys are easy to imagine for, consumables like coffee or skincare, but you also touched on kind of this like upgrade or upsize path for Crocs. At what point does it stop being worth spending money to win someone back versus just letting them come back on their own? And how do you make that call?
Yeah, so the 1 to 3 year life cycle is interesting because if we don't see people reordering at that 1 to 3 year point, like I mentioned before, we do have a lot of dupes, we have a lot of competition. So the question we ask ourselves is, are they not ordering because they don't need new shoes, or are they not ordering because they found another brand that they're ordering from because of price or whatever? So basically, we never want to take a passive approach because of that. People are always buying new shoes, and we do want to stay front of mind for people. So the first thing I'd say that we consider is just, where are we seeing signs of interest? Are we seeing them coming to the site? Are we seeing them clicking on emails? And if there's any sort of site visit, site behavior, or engagement with with our channels, we're not going to write them off yet. We're going to continue to target them. And then if we are seeing them drop off, we've seen no signal from them for a while, we're going to optimize for CPV. So similar to what Gavin was saying, we also are big on cross-channel journeys. So we might start with an SMS. If they're not engaging with that, we all know the SMS channel is really expensive. We're not going to push any harder there. We're going to look to lower cost channels like email and SMS. So I'd say we continue to engage them for about a year. And then if we're not seeing any uptick after a year, we pretty much leave them alone. I'd say the one time that we try to bring people back in, though, is Black Friday. And then, like, if there's a major product launch that we know is going to draw a lot of attention and a lot of hype, we use those opportunities to capture their attention.
Yeah, that makes tons of sense. I just want to call out for people. We have a few more questions here and then would love to answer questions from the audience. So please feel free to put them in the chat. We have hosts behind the scenes who will moderate as well. And so we'll get some of those questions answered. So please feel free. We have Kristen and Gavin here. So it's a good time to ask them questions and learn from them. And so please feel free to post there. Kristen, I'll give you another one. So in retail, churn is pretty fuzzy. So you talked about before, like a customer who hasn't bought in 12 months might still buy next month. Like, how do you decide whether someone's really lost versus dormant? You touched on it a little bit before, but like that nuance there.
Yeah, exactly. So any sort of indication that they're opening, visiting the site, we consider them still active and we're going to continue to target them. But I'd say one thing that we're always doing is we're constantly testing. So we're testing timing, we're testing offers, we're testing content in all of our marketing touch points. And it we may like be overthinking little decisions here and there, but if we can increase conversion rate by 1% on something, then that's hundreds of thousands of customers that we're bringing back for that next purchase. So, yeah, we do sweat the small stuff and we analyze the details when it comes to testing.
That makes sense. And Gavin, this one's for you. For a publisher, every retained reader has real advertising and subscription value, but many teams still focus heavily on traffic and reach. So how do you think about balancing those, and what's the key metric you put in front of leadership to represent retention value?
So in terms of balancing those two, I don't think there's inherently a trade-off between those two strategies. Acquisition and retention can sort of run parallel and deserve equal attention. But in terms of the metric, I think that really is the most important point. So I might focus and present to leadership, as you say, something called healthy active users. So we don't care about a total DB size or a total number of users. We care about those core healthy active users. So those defined by a certain amount of time on site in the last amount of days, a certain amount of engagements, also on a time scale, that kind of thing. And the trend of that is most important, right? So you always want to have, certainly not shrinking, but ideally month on month, that healthy active user base is growing.
That's awesome. Let's wrap up with a question around AI, since I'm sure many teams are thinking about how to incorporate it into their retention strategy. Where is AI showing up in your retention stack? Is it in segmentation, copy, send time, journey logic? What's worked for you and what has been hype? So, Kristen, if you want to take the first one, and then we'll go from there.
Sure, yeah. We've tested quite a bit of AI features in both email and SMS. So copywriting tools, send time optimization, predictive analytics for segmentation, and subscriber acquisition modal logic have been some of the big tests we've done. I'd say what works well is we've had a lot of success with segmentation tools, especially using them as suppressions to weed out people within the SMS channel that are unlikely to purchase. We've found a lot of cost savings there, but also with predictive analytics. So in our email program, we have likely to click audiences, and we've leaned heavily into those, and they tend to be some of our top performing segments. Copy tools have done okay for us. They've really helped get us out of ruts when we're trying to figure out how to say, this product is on sale up to 50% off for the 100th time, especially during Black Friday. But when we have tested it against human written copy, it has not outperformed that copy. So I think it's more of like a get the juices flowing, mix it up kind of tool, but it's not going to outperform humans for us. What hasn't worked for us is tools that don't have some sort of last minute human gut check. So we've run in SMS, we ran AI generated journeys, and the copy was written by AI as it goes out. And we, occasionally people in the office would get those texts and be like, what does this even mean? And so we do need that last minute human approval process. And then Send time optimization does work well for us, but it doesn't really work well for our strategy because we have a lot of product launches that sell out after an hour or two. So we really need those to go out when the product goes live.
Yeah, that makes sense. Gavin, what do you think on that one?
So AI has had a huge impact on our business. What's really important for us, especially on the media side of things, is that we're not using generative AI. It's really important that we maintain trust with our readers, and the facts the journalists have written remain the facts. So it's been a very careful rollout and a very careful use. So our main uses for AI is more rewording or summarizing content to fit the channel. So helping with copy for a push notification or for a Facebook post, that kind of stuff's been really powerful. We've also, in the last 6 months, more and more been playing with fine-tuned models. So really kind of getting into the deep nitty-gritty of AI and getting custom models for all of our brands going to kind of match their brand voice and how they speak to their users. It's also been a massive help in terms of sort of evangelizing more automation. A lot of times, certain elements of automation get stuck because you need a human to do one of the steps. Now AI can kind of step in and write some copy for you if you need to. Add a small animation to an image if you're trying to do a image to video kind of automation for a brand. So as I say, we've been very careful along the way. Certainly, I wouldn't classify anything we're doing as AI or Gen AI, but certainly assisting saving a lot of time. To the point of where this actually helps in retention, predominantly it's working within sort of the personalization and segmentation space for us there. So it's certainly very helpful in identifying which content is going to be the most relevant for which users and assisting with personalization from that sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. If your team is stuck in the kind of this acquire, lose, repeat cycle, spending heavily on acquisition, but losing users just as fast, what's the first step you'd tell them to take?
Personally, I would ask yourself if you're giving your customers a reason to come back, put yourself in their shoes, and ask if, first of all, if the customer experience was optimal, if your shipping was solid, if you are giving them the right offers to come back. But also ask yourself if you're providing your customers with the products that they're interested in, or if your creative is resonating with them, and like really analyze the entire customer experience. And it might not even necessarily be something you can control in the retention space, but just talk about it. If you need your company to be making more of a certain product, or if you need your creative team to be leaning into a certain trend, just be a squeaky wheel and ask for what's working in retention, where you are seeing that success, and just don't spend money where you're not seeing that success.
Yeah, that makes sense. Thank you. So those are all the questions that we had, and we're going to do a couple from the audience, so we can hop in, either of you, if you want to take either one of these. So this one's from Magzan. So go for it, Gavin. Yeah, go for it.
I was going to say, I can also
please go for it. Yeah, we'd love your take.
To the last question as well. So I think from my point, I'd be quite harsh and say stop investing in acquisition if it's returning, right? Stop spending the money. If it's a matter of resources, whether it's money or people, refocus that internally. Build the automated journeys, build the personalization frameworks, build the things to manage the hygiene and the user's life cycle, and then invest in acquisition. There's no point in spending the money if the user doesn't stay.
Absolutely. I think it's hard. I think sometimes it is like very challenging. I think sometimes people are not necessarily thinking that far down the path, right? So they spend a lot on acquisition, and then all of a sudden it's like, where are these people going? How do we retain them? We definitely see that a lot, especially with like early apps that are like just taking off in popularity as well. So yeah, thank you both for just your thoughts and sharing your experience. Like this is, I know for lots of people, I've already seen a bunch of comments in the chat about how this is just really helpful for people and giving them insights. There's a number of kind of questions that have come in through the Q&A section. And so I wanted to pick off a couple of them, and some of them are related to those to the AI questions that we talked about at the end. So Mag Zen wrote in and said, what's the importance of personalizing CRM efforts in the evolving age of AI, summaries, briefs, and highly curated notifications? So if either of you want to take that one.
Go ahead.
Sure. Yeah, the importance is so we talked at the beginning of the webinar about how engagement is factored into the AI algorithm. So if you're continuing to
Yep.
engage with your emails, you're going to get better inbox placement. So personalization, they're much more likely to engage with a product that we already know that they have vested interest in. Maybe they added it to their cart, maybe they browsed it, maybe they browsed the category. So surfacing products that we know that they are going to engagement in the long run is going to help feed that algorithm.
Yeah, pretty much the same answer from my side. If the content is personalized, you're going to engage that user for longer and have a much better retention rate.
Yeah, I think we're in this unique time too where people are moving their discovery to LLMs, right? And so there's this time, Google got in and tried to disintermediate the customer relationship, right? Between like people doing discovery and essentially like, let's say, e-commerce companies and other companies that are delivering content. And so I think we're in this moment now where building that relationship directly with your customers is going to be more and more valuable over this period of time as people are moving their discovery to LLMs. And LLMs obviously will be like stronger around recommendations, and I'm sure have pay to play and ads there. But that building that direct relationship and doing that in a personalized way, so you're essentially giving a good return on people's attention, I think is very, very important in the coming years.
Yeah,
Okay, so
I
last question.
I saw
Yeah,
a
go
really
for it.
interesting email from Starbucks. If anyone is here on the call works at Starbucks, kudos. They sent an email recently that was actually encouraging their customers to go to ChatGPT to ask for drink recommendations and to tell ChatGPT about their drink preferences to zero in on the right order for them. So I thought that was a really interesting way to like work with those LLMs and use it to their advantage.
Yeah, it makes sense. I mean, I think we're going to see people give more and more of their kind of decision making over to the AI, and so I think what'll end up happening is people will, um, in this like infinite world of decisions, your email inbox traffic will actually be essentially the content for your personalization within the LLM. So, like, if you care about Crocs, you care about Ring Gear, you care about these 3 record stores, and you care about these these other brands. When you start to search for, hey, I want a new pair of shoes, it's going to say, oh, hey, dude, is great, or Crocs is great, and then here's the promotion that you can use. It's sitting right there in your inbox, and you're going to see that be how recommendations actually happen, in addition to kind of the pay to play. So definitely is going to matter a lot of what you let through your filter, right? As well. All right, last question. Talking about this last question, this is from Pablo. We've talked about how AI can lower engagement, but are any of you using AI like machine learning algorithms to predict churn or to target specific users? So maybe doing that calculation outside of the system and then bringing those segments in.
Yeah, so we are not using it to predict churn right now, although I think that's definitely in the near future. But we are using it for predictive segmentation, for predictive analytics. So we have likely to click, likely to buy audiences that are AI generated that do perform really well for us.
Awesome.
Yeah, so similar on our side, we aren't using it for churn prediction. I'm not sure if you even need AI for that just yet. Some of the more classic indicators are still pretty reliable, but we are using it for article scoring or just content scoring in general. You can imagine a brand that's producing 1 to 200 articles a day. You need to decide which ones you're going to use, and you have no page view information yet. So we're using AI in that sense to score articles or score content to decide, which ones we distribute beyond just the website.
That makes tons of sense. Thank you. Thank you all so much for taking the time. We're right at time, and so we're going to try to wrap on time for everyone. And thank you all for sticking around. Wanted to let you know there's a few specific resources that are available to you. So we'll do a follow up with a recording and a recap. There's the state of customer engagement that we'll also share with you. And I just put in the chat our new guide that just came out today, recipes for retention. So make sure that you go check that out. Kristen, Gavin, thank you both for being here and being so kind of specific and thoughtful in your insights. You know, it's very easy to stay very high level in these things, but I really appreciate you actually like sharing, you know, the specifics of what you're doing. I think it's really, really valuable for others on the call, and a lot of people stuck around to hear what you had to say. So we're excited about that. So thanks again. Look forward to the year ahead, and now go break the churn loop together. Appreciate it. Thanks, everyone.